Daniel traced his finger along the rim of his coffee mug, watching the evening light fade through their apartment windows. The silence had become his companion these past 3 months, ever since his wife Myra's promotion at the marketing firm. Myra was extraordinary in every way. Her blonde wavy hair cascaded past her shoulders, catching light like spun gold. Her fox-like ears twitched expressively atop her head, always revealing her true emotions before her words could. Her fluffy tail, marked with the same golden blonde as her hair, used to wrap around his waist when they embraced. She had the grace of her feline heritage, lithe, beautiful, with striking amber eyes that once looked at him like he was her entire world. Working late again tonight, her text message read, the 3rd one this week. Big client presentation tomorrow. Don't wait up. Love you. Daniel stared at those last 2 words. When had they started feeling obligatory rather than meaningful? He remembered their early days, how her tail would swish excitedly when he came home, how her ears would perk up at the sound of his key in the lock. Now, she was barely home to notice. He told himself he understood. Career advancement required sacrifice. The financial stability was important for their future. These were the mantras he repeated while eating dinner alone, while falling asleep in an empty bed, while waking up to find her side still cold. But something felt wrong. Her scent had changed. She used to smell like vanilla and cinnamon, warm and comforting. Lately, she smelled like cologne that wasn't his. Her fur seemed shinier, her grooming more meticulous. She dressed differently for work now, her professional attire more form-fitting, more deliberate. Daniel pushed the thoughts away, guilt washing over him for even questioning her. Myra had never given him reason to doubt. She was dedicated, ambitious, honest, wasn't she? His phone buzzed. Another message, might be really late. Conference room sessions running long. There's leftover pasta in the fridge. Conference room sessions. Client presentations. Late-night strategy meetings. The vocabulary of her absence had become familiar, almost rehearsed. Daniel looked at the empty couch where they used to curl up together, her tail draped over his lap while they watched movies. When had everything changed? And more importantly, why couldn't he shake the feeling that working late meant something entirely different than what he wanted to believe? Thursday morning arrived with Daniel's alarm at 6. Myra's side of the bed was still warm. She'd come home sometime after 2, slipped in silently, and was now sleeping with her back to him. Her tail, which used to instinctively curl toward him in sleep, lay limply on her side of the bed. He studied her blonde hair spread across the pillow, the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. Even in sleep, she seemed distant now, as if dreaming of somewhere, or someone, else. At breakfast, Myra rushed through her coffee, her ears flattened against her head in what he recognized as stress. Or was it something else? Guilt, perhaps? Another late night? Daniel asked, keeping his voice casual. Unfortunately, yes. She didn't meet his eyes, focused on her phone screen. This campaign is killing me. Probably won't be home until 9 or 10. You've been working so hard, Daniel said, an idea forming. I'm really proud of you, you know. Her ears twitched, surprise, maybe guilt. Thanks, she murmured, finally looking at him. For a moment, her amber eyes held something like regret. Then she glanced at her phone again, and whatever emotion he'd glimpsed vanished. I should go. Traffic will be terrible. After she left, Daniel sat in the silence of their apartment, making a decision. If Myra was drowning in work stress, the least he could do was show support. He'd surprise her at the office tonight with dinner, her favorite Thai food from that little place she loved. Spring rolls, pad Thai with extra peanuts, mango sticky rice for dessert. The plan felt good, felt right. He imagined her face lighting up, her ears perking forward in genuine delight, her tail swishing happily. Maybe they could eat in her office together, reconnect over food and conversation like they used to. Daniel spent the day distracted at his own job, mind wandering to the evening ahead. He left work early, stopped at the Thai restaurant, carefully packed everything in insulated bags. The food smelled incredible. He remembered their first date at this very restaurant, how Myra had laughed when peanut sauce dripped on her chin, how he'd reached across to wipe it away and she'd caught his hand, held it, her tail wrapping around his wrist. By 7:30, Daniel was driving toward her office building downtown, the passenger seat filled with aromatic bags of food. His heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. This was what their marriage needed: spontaneous gestures, quality time, remembering why they fell in love. The evening sky darkened as he pulled into the parking garage. Myra's car was there in its usual spot, a good sign. She really was working. Daniel grabbed the food and headed toward the elevators, already smiling. He had no idea he was walking toward the end of everything he believed in. The elevator ride to the 7th floor felt longer than usual. Daniel shifted the bags of food in his arms, imagining Myra's reaction. Would she be embarrassed in front of colleagues? Touched by the gesture? He hoped for the latter. The office corridor was eerily quiet for 7:30. Most cubicles sat dark and empty. Through glass walls, he could see abandoned desks, blank computer screens, the detritus of a workday long ended. A young woman at the reception desk looked up, her human features showing confusion. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Myra Thornhill," Daniel said. "I'm her husband. Brought her some dinner." The receptionist's expression shifted, something between surprise and discomfort. "Oh, I think she might be in the conference wing. Let me just check." "It's okay, I know where her office is." Daniel smiled, already moving past. Myra's office was at the end of the hall, a corner space she'd earned 6 months ago. Daniel's footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. His initial excitement began mixing with something else, a creeping unease he couldn't quite name. Her office door was open. The lights were off. Daniel stood in the doorway, bags of food growing heavy in his arms. Her desk sat neat and organized, computer monitor dark. Her coffee mug, the one he'd given her last Christmas, sat clean and unused. No scattered papers suggesting frantic work. No evidence of the intense campaign she described. "Excuse me," Daniel said, approaching a maintenance worker emptying trash bins. "Have you seen Myra Thornhill tonight? Blonde hair, fox ears." The worker shook his head. "Haven't seen her. Most folks cleared out around 5:30 today. Thursday's always quiet up here." 5:30. 4 hours ago. Daniel's chest tightened. Maybe she was in a conference room. There were several in the building. He started walking, checking each one methodically. His footsteps sounded too loud in the empty spaces. First conference room, empty, lights off. Second conference room, empty, chairs tucked neatly under the table. Third conference room, empty, whiteboard clean. The Thai food was getting cold. Daniel's hands had started to shake slightly. The executive conference wing was on the 8th floor. He took the stairs, something making him want to avoid the elevator's enclosed space, the way it would force him to stand still with his thoughts. The 8th floor was even quieter. Darker. Premium offices for senior partners lined both sides, interspersed with high-end conference rooms used for important clients. Then he heard it. Laughter. Muffled, coming from behind a closed door at the corridor's end. A woman's laugh, bright and carefree. Familiar. Daniel's feet carried him forward even as his mind screamed at him to stop, to turn around, to leave this alone. Through the door's frosted glass panel, he could see shadows. 2 figures. Close together. Too close. His hand reached for the doorknob, trembling now. The bags of Thai food slipped from his other hand, containers hitting the floor with a muted thud. But he couldn't move away. Couldn't unsee. Couldn't unknow what he was about to discover. Daniel stood frozen, his hand on the cold doorknob. The laughter continued inside, Myra's laugh, the one that used to be reserved for his jokes, for their private moments. Now she was sharing it with someone else. He should knock. He should walk away. He should do anything except what he was about to do. The doorknob turned silently. The door opened a crack. Through the gap, Daniel saw them. Myra sat on the edge of the conference table, her professional blazer discarded on a nearby chair. Her blonde wavy hair was tousled, not in the stressed, exhausted way of someone working late, but in the way of someone who'd had hands running through it. Her fox ears were alert, forward-facing with pleasure, and her tail swished slowly, contentedly. A man stood between her legs, tall, athletic, probably early 40s. Marcus Westfield, he realized with sick recognition. The senior partner whose name Myra mentioned occasionally. The one heading the big campaign. Myra's arms were wrapped around Marcus's neck. Her fingers traced patterns on his shoulders as he leaned into her, whispering something that made her giggle again. Her tail had wound around his waist possessively, intimately, the same way it used to wrap around Daniel. "We should be more careful," Myra murmured, but her tone held no real concern. "What if someone comes in?" "Everyone's gone home," Marcus replied, his hands sliding up her thighs. "Just like every Thursday. Our time. Our time." Thursday had always been her latest night. 3 months of Thursdays. Daniel watched as Marcus kissed her neck, and Myra tilted her head back, eyes closing in obvious pleasure. Her ears flattened slightly, the way they always did when she was aroused. He'd thought that expression belonged to him alone. "I keep thinking about that hotel last week," Myra whispered, running her hands down Marcus's chest. "We should go back soon. A whole night together instead of stolen hours." Last week, Daniel had been told about an overnight team-building retreat. Mandatory attendance, she'd said. She'd come home the next morning with that same satisfied glow he'd mistaken for professional accomplishment. Marcus's hands moved to unbutton her blouse, and Myra helped, eager, practiced. This wasn't their first time. Not even close. "God, I've been thinking about you all day," Marcus breathed against her skin. "Sitting in that client meeting, watching you present, wanting to bend you over the conference table right there." Myra laughed, pulling him closer. "Patience. We have all evening. Daniel thinks I'm working on the campaign strategy until 9. Hearing his name in her mouth while she was wrapped around another man shattered something fundamental in Daniel's chest. Her blouse fell open. Marcus's hands explored territory that had once been sacred, exclusive. Myra's tail tightened around him, pulling him closer as she kissed him with passion Daniel hadn't seen from her in months. The bags of Thai food lay forgotten at Daniel's feet. Myra's favorite dinner, brought with love, now just trash on the floor of a corridor where his marriage had just died. He should burst in. He should confront them. He should rage and demand explanations. Instead, Daniel carefully, silently pulled the door closed. He picked up the bags of cold Thai food. And he walked away down the empty corridor, each step heavier than the last. Behind him, Myra's laughter echoed, completely unaware that her loving husband had just watched her give everything to someone else. Daniel drove home in a fog. The bags of Thai food sat in the passenger seat, a monument to his naivety, to every time he believed her excuses, to every night he'd fallen asleep alone while telling himself it was for their future. Our time. The words played on repeat in his mind. Thursday had been their ritual, date night in their early relationship. Now it was Myra and Marcus's scheduled affair. She'd taken something precious and given it to someone else. At home, Daniel sat in the dark living room, not bothering with lights. He opened one container of pad thai and ate mechanically, not tasting anything. Myra's favorite dish. He'd ordered extra peanuts, remembered to ask for the sauce on the side, even got that mango sticky rice she loved. He'd been trying to show love while she was showing herself to another man. His phone buzzed. Myra's text, "Wrapping up soon. Should be home by 9:30. Don't wait up if you're tired. Love you Red Heart Hash. Love you." 2 words that had once meant everything, now just part of her cover story. Daniel wondered how many times she'd texted those words from Marcus's arms, from hotel rooms, from conference tables where she did everything except work. He didn't respond to the text. At 9:45, he heard her key in the lock. Myra entered humming softly, her blonde hair somewhat disheveled, her business attire slightly wrinkled. She looked satisfied, glowing, beautiful, just not for him. "Hey, you're still up," she said, surprised. Her ears flattened slightly, reading something in his expression. "Everything okay?" Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. The woman he'd married, the woman he'd trusted, the woman whose tail was probably still carrying Marcus's scent beneath the perfume she'd clearly applied in the car. "How was work?" he asked, his voice neutral. "Exhausting," Myra said automatically, dropping her bag. "But productive." I think we're finally getting somewhere with this campaign. The lie flowed effortlessly, practiced. How many times had she rehearsed these responses? That's good, Daniel said. I'm glad you're making progress. Myra studied him, her fox instincts sensing something wrong. Are you sure you're okay? You seem distant. Distant. The word was almost funny. He'd been distant all along, distant from the truth, from reality, from the fact that his marriage had been a performance for months. I brought you Thai food tonight, Daniel said quietly. Your favorite. From that place we went on our first date. Myra's ears went rigid. Her tail stopped moving. What? I wanted to surprise you at work. Support you during these stressful times. He watched her face carefully. But your office was empty. Your floor was empty. Conference rooms too. Strange, for someone working so late. The color drained from Myra's face. Her ears flattened completely against her head. Fear, guilt, exposure. Daniel, I looked everywhere for you, he continued, still calm. Eventually found you in the executive conference wing. With Marcus. Though I suppose working late is technically accurate. You were definitely exerting yourself. Silence filled the apartment like poison gas. Myra's mouth opened, closed. Her tail had gone completely still, tucked against her leg in submission or shame. How long? Daniel asked. Daniel, please, let me explain. How long? 3 months, she whispered, tears forming in her amber eyes. It just happened. We were working together. There was chemistry. 3 months of Thursdays, Daniel said. 3 months of overnight retreats. 3 months of me falling asleep alone while you were in hotel rooms, in conference rooms, anywhere but where you said you'd be. I never meant to hurt you, Myra sobbed, reaching for him. I love you, I just. Don't. Daniel stood, stepping back from her touch. Don't say you love me. Not with his scent still on you. Not with his hands still fresh on your skin. Myra collapsed onto the couch, crying, her tail wrapped around herself defensively. Once, Daniel would have comforted her. Now he just felt empty. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, he said. Tomorrow we'll discuss lawyers. The apartment lease is in both our names, but I think you should be the one to leave. Maybe Marcus has room for you in his place. I'm sure you've already stayed over. Daniel, please, we can work through this. No, he said simply. We can't. You chose to work through something else entirely. Every late night, every lie, every text saying love you while you were with him, those were your choices. This is mine. He walked toward the guest room, leaving Myra sobbing in the living room. The bags of Thai food still sat on the kitchen counter, cold and untouched, just like their marriage had been for 3 months. Daniel had brought dinner as an act of love. Instead, he delivered himself the truth. And while truth was painful, at least it was honest, which was more than he could say for the woman he'd married. Tomorrow would bring difficult conversations, legal proceedings, the painful dismantling of a shared life. But tonight, Daniel would sleep alone not because his wife was working late, but because he finally knew exactly what kind of overtime she'd really been doing. And somehow, that truth, as devastating as it was, felt better than living one more day inside her carefully constructed lie.